been told to ask the universe, to speak your desire, to trust the signs, to wait for the reply. But no one told you the universe doesn't speak back in words. It never did. It reflects, it echoes, it vibrates, and it organizes itself around your structure, not your sentences. The universe is not a person, it's not a teacher, it's not a god in the clouds, it's a field of intelligence, alive, neutral, immediate, responsive, and the only thing it ever does is match your signal, match your pattern, match your dominant broadcast. So the real question is never, is the universe answering me? The question is always, am I transmitting anything stable enough to echo? Because most people don't speak in signal. They speak in static. They think confusion, breathe anxiety, act in contradiction. Want one thing and vibrate another. They light candles while doubting everything. They visualize while leaking fear. They affirm abundance while their nervous system is locked in scarcity. And then they ask why the universe is silent. But the field isn't silent, it's exact, it's math, it's pure feedback, and it only responds to one thing: coherence. If you want to talk to the universe and actually get an answer, you have to speak the only language it understands. Not English, not prayer, not performance, frequency, symbol, emotion, silence, choice. These are not metaphors. They are code. They are functional languages. And when you begin to use them with precision, the universe stops being mysterious. It becomes obvious, immediate, relentless. So here are 5 ways to speak to the universe and actually get a response. Not because you're special, not because you're chosen, because you finally stopped broadcasting noise. The first language is frequency. This is the foundation, the root of all manifestation. If your frequency isn't aligned, nothing else works. Not intention, not gratitude, not vision. The field does not hear your wish. It hears your tone. It listens to the emotional atmosphere of your being. You say you want peace but live in adrenaline. You ask for love but expect rejection. You pray for clarity but keep consuming chaos. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you normalize, what you repeat, what you carry unconsciously. So the first step is this: regulate your signal. Feel the thing before it arrives, not as a trick, as calibration. Breathe as if it's already true. Move as if it's already integrated. Speak as if it's already landed. Not to fake it, but to stabilize the frequency long enough for the field to respond. You are not sending a request. You are setting a tone, and the field arranges itself around tone. It always has. You want to talk to the universe? Stop talking. Start transmitting. Still your mind. Regulate your body. Hold the signal. Don't ask. Become. The second language is symbol. The universe is not linear. It doesn't give you instructions. It gives you glyphs, symbols, archetypes, sequences, echoes. It sends the same numbers again and again. It places the same bird in your path 3 days in a row. It makes 5 strangers mention the same word. It repeats itself not for aesthetics, but for instruction. The field is symbolic because it doesn't speak through content. It speaks through pattern. If the same image keeps appearing, it's not random. It's resonance. If the same phrase finds you across different people, dreams, books, it's not coincidence. It's code. The universe teaches through geometry, and geometry never lies. That's why most people miss the message. They want clarity in concepts, but clarity lives in repetition, in what keeps showing up, in what hits your gut without explanation. Your job isn't to figure it out. It's to notice, track the symbols, write them down, let them accumulate. The pattern will reveal itself, not as logic, as structure. When the universe wants your attention, it doesn't yell, it echoes. And the echoes always start soft. If you don't listen, they get louder. If you still don't listen, they become disruption, so don't wait for disruption. Learn the syntax of symbols. It's not superstition, it's structure. The third language is emotion, not reactivity, not drama, not performance. Real emotion, fully felt, fully present, fully regulated, is one of the most powerful ways to speak to the universe. Because emotion is energy in motion. It is the frequency amplified, the signal revealed. The moment your heart breaks open, the field listens. Not because it wants you in pain, but because pain, when held in presence, creates precision. You stop pretending. You stop negotiating. You stop broadcasting static. Raw emotion strips the mask, and in that moment of vibrational truth, the universe adjusts. Most people suppress their emotion. They try to stay calm, stay polite, stay neutral. But neutrality is not clarity if it's false. And the universe doesn't respond to what you suppress. It responds to what you own. You don't need to be stable all the time. You need to be real. You need to stop labeling your grief as weakness. Stop hiding your rage. Stop numbing your longing. Because each of these is not dysfunction. It's data. Each emotional surge is a wave trying to complete its message. And when you interrupt the wave, with judgment, with guilt, with mental analysis, the message stalls. The universe can't complete the loop. So it sends it again and again, in new forms, in new people, until you stop thinking about it and start feeling it. When you cry with clarity, something shifts. When you rage cleanly, something unlocks. When you grieve fully, the door opens because now the signal is clear. Now the emotion has moved through. Now the field can respond not to your mental story, but to your vibrational truth. Emotion is not something to manage. It's something to steward, with presence, with precision, with reverence, because your emotional tone is not personal. It's instructional. It teaches the field what you're ready to receive. It announces what timeline you belong to. If you carry shame, the field contracts. If you radiate self-forgiveness, the field opens. It's that exact, that immediate. The heart is not a poetic symbol, it's a tuning device. When coherent, it becomes a magnetic transmitter that speaks louder than any voice. So if you want the universe to respond, don't yell, don't beg, don't pretend you're okay. Sit, feel, let the energy complete its loop, and then listen. Because once the emotion finishes its course, the answer lands. Every time, the fourth language is silence, not the silence of suppression, not the silence of shutting down. The silence that listens, the silence that calibrates, the silence that holds the field open long enough for the response to arrive. Most people never hear the universe because they never stop talking to it. They ask again and again. They light candles, they write intentions, they chant affirmations. And the field is already trying to answer, but they're too loud to notice. The universe doesn't respond to repetition. It responds to space. It doesn't speak through rush. It speaks through stillness. When you ask, stop. When you release, listen. When you send a signal, clear the field for the return. Because the answer is not a voice in your head. It's not some cosmic whisper. It's the pattern that lands, the phone call that happens, the stranger who says the sentence you wrote in your journal, the song that plays at the exact second your body relaxed. That's the reply, but you won't notice it if you're still filling the channel. The nervous system must be quiet, the mind must be soft, the identity must stop reaching. That's when the field bends, when you are no longer interrupting it with your performance. The silence is not nothing. It is full, saturated, intelligent. You're not emptying yourself to be passive. You're emptying yourself so the universe has somewhere to land. That's the geometry of response. That's why monks spend years in silence. That's why mystics retreat. That's why the deepest realizations come not during action, but after, when you've asked your question and stopped trying to answer it. when you've done the ritual and walked away, when you've surrendered the outcome without collapse. Most people think surrender is weakness, but surrender is the highest form of trust. It's the moment you become quiet, not out of fear, but because you know the field is already moving. You don't chase the answer, you hold the space for it, and then you don't interpret it. You recognize it. That's the power of silence. It trains you to feel reality reorganize itself in response to your signal. And that sensation is unmistakable. Not a thought, not a download, a shift, a breath, a pattern. Something clears, something clicks, something lands. And it was always waiting. Not for your question, but for your silence. The most exact way to speak to the universe is not thought, not affirmation, not even emotion. It's choice. Because your choices cut through story, through confusion, through contradiction. Your choices reveal your actual frequency more than any ritual ever could. You don't have to say, "I'm ready," when your actions already declare it. You don't have to ask for alignment when your choices already embody it. Every time you make a decision, not a fantasy, not a wish, not a maybe, but a clean, embodied choice, the universe reorganizes, not metaphorically, literally. The field registers it instantly, because choice is a declaration of vibration. It's your frequency translated into movement, into matter, into timeline. People ask, how do I get a sign? The answer is simple. Make a real decision, a full one, not a half yes, not a performance, a cellular level decision, and watch what happens next. The answer will come, the response will land, the reflection will arrive, not because you pushed, but because you finally sent something stable enough to mirror. This is the one thing most avoid, because choice costs identity. Every true choice kills the version of you that didn't choose, and most people want the result without that death. So they stay in the loop. They say, "I'm ready," while choosing comfort. They say, "I'm clear," while choosing contradiction. And the universe matches the contradiction, not to hurt them, to reflect them. Because choice is not about language. It's not about what sounds right. It's about what you prove with your actions. You say you want to be free. But do you choose structure? Do you choose boundaries? Do you choose saying no to the old pattern when it knocks again in a new costume? That's how you talk to the universe. With your spine, with your movement, with your refusal to collapse. The field doesn't believe your words, it believes your alignment, and alignment is choice. Over and over, especially when it's hard, especially when the cost is real, especially when no one sees. That's the point of power, when you don't need to explain your choice, when you don't need to defend it, when you don't need validation, because you feel the shift in your body the moment you act. You feel the opening, the click, the reality adjust itself 1 inch in your favor. Not because you were good, because you were exact. That's the vibration the universe understands. Precision, not perfection, not performance. Precision. Every yes is a frequency. Every no is a boundary. Every action is a map. And the universe isn't random. It's a mirror of what you mapped. So stop begging it to deliver what you haven't chosen. Stop waiting for confirmation before you act. Stop looking for permission to become the version of you who already exists. That version is waiting for one thing: your decision. Not in theory, in practice, in breath, in behavior, in vibration. You want the answer? Choose as if it's already here. Move like it's already true. Respond like the timeline is already shifted, and watch how quickly it does. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. The universe doesn't follow your requests, it follows your frequency. And choice is the cleanest frequency you can emit, because it can't be faked. You either chose or you didn't. You either anchored the new field or repeated the old one. You either acted from truth or reacted from fear. That's the real oracle. That's the real spell. Not words, will, not hope, motion, not wanting, walking. So if you want the answer, choose, not louder, cleaner, not faster, deeper. And then stay there. Let the field catch up. Let the pattern reveal itself. Let the geometry reorganize. That's how you become undeniable. Not by wishing for alignment, by embodying it, again and again and again, until reality has no choice but to respond. At some point on this path, you stop separating the tools. You stop asking which language to use. You stop trying to get the answer because you realize you were always in the conversation. Always. Every breath, every action, every silence, every emotion. Every moment you held your spine when it was easier to fold. Every time you followed the nudge even when logic disagreed. Every time you said no to the pattern. Every time you cried honestly instead of performing strength. That was all signal. That was all syntax. That was all code. You've never not been talking to the universe. You've just been broadcasting noise instead of clarity. Fragmentation instead of frequency. You were screaming in emotional static while asking why nothing replied. But the reply was always there, in what repeated, in what fell apart, in what showed up again and again until you noticed it was you. It was never about being worthy. It was never about being ready. It was about being precise, present, clean, honest. And when you stop separating the process, when you stop labeling frequency, emotion, silence, symbol, and choice as techniques, you realize they were never separate. They were movements of the same song, expressions of the same signal. They were never instructions. They were how you became coherent. And coherence is the only prayer that lands. When you stop chasing outcomes and start holding field, reality stops being adversarial. It becomes responsive, not perfectly, not comfortably, but truthfully. That's when the feedback loop becomes real. You notice how when you're clear, everything speeds up. How when you hesitate, the signal drops. How when you suppress, the outer world reflects confusion. You stop thinking about manifestation. You start treating your day like a musical score. Every action tuned, every step a rhythm, every word a frequency. You don't repeat affirmations. You become one. You don't write intentions. You stabilize them. You don't wait for signs. You speak in them. Because now the languages aren't separate acts. They are one geometry. When you feel emotion, you hold it without resistance, and it informs the field. When you make a choice, you trust it enough to go silent, and the answer arrives. When you see a symbol, you don't doubt it. You act on it. When you vibrate peace, you don't demand more. You breathe it deeper. The conversation becomes seamless, real time. You say nothing, and the right person appears. You close a chapter, and the pattern stops repeating. You trust the silence, and the contract gets offered. Not because you forced it, because you stopped fragmenting the signal. You realized your field is the conversation. Your breath is the language. Your nervous system is the interface. And your responsibility is simple. Stay tuned. Stay clean. Stay exact. You don't need to overthink your emotions. Just feel them. You don't need to decode every sign. Just act on the ones that repeat. You don't need to constantly ask. Just recognize what's already been said. The universe is not testing you. It's following you. Every delay you experience is not punishment. It's misalignment. Every loop you find yourself in is not failure. It's repetition of a missed frequency. Every miracle you experience is not reward. It's proof that the system responds. And when you live like this, you stop needing to believe in anything. You just feel it, in your timing, in your body, in the way your choices generate echoes instead of resistance, in the way your silence becomes sharper than your thoughts, in the way reality stops being separate and becomes sculptable. That's what talking to the universe really is, not asking for favors. Holding a signal with such precision that life responds because it has no other option. Because you became too aligned to ignore, too tuned to distort, too consistent to delay. And that's not magic, that's structure. That's how the field was designed. You just had to remember how to speak the original language. And that language was never verbal. It was vibrational. It still is. At the end of all this, there is no final message, there is no final sign, there is no final step. Because when you start living as the signal, not chasing it, not asking for it, not translating it, everything that happens is already a reply. You stop wondering what's next. You stop searching for confirmation. You stop performing alignment. And you begin to experience a kind of reality where life speaks before you even think the question. Where the timing sharpens. Where the feedback loop becomes instant. Where the internal shift and the external echo are separated by seconds, not years. You don't call it manifestation. You don't call it magic. You don't call it intuition. You just live it. As normal. As natural. As the only way reality ever worked before you forgot how to listen. Because that's the only thing that ever blocked the answers. Noise, doubt, delay. The belief that you had to do more, ask louder, be better. But you were never meant to be louder. You were meant to be clearer. You were never meant to perform a perfect signal. You were meant to stabilize an honest one. This whole path, from frequency to symbol to emotion to silence to choice, was not a map to help you get more. It was a key to help you remove what was never yours. The static, the urgency, the addiction to signs, the endless seeking. Once that's gone, you hear the field exactly as it is, still, structured, responsive. It's not hiding, it's mirroring, it's not waiting, it's reflecting. And what it reflects is not what you want, but what you are. So the question now is no longer, how do I talk to the universe? You've already asked. You've already been heard. The field is already moving. The only question that remains is, are you tuned enough to notice the reply? Are you willing to hold the signal long enough for it to land? Are you willing to feel the discomfort of precision? Are you willing to act when the symbol repeats? To stay still when the silence speaks louder than advice, to choose alignment before the result arrives? Because that's what will tell the field you're serious, not your rituals, not your journals, your stability, your action, your breath, your stillness, your refusal to collapse back into the version of you who had to ask so loudly because they didn't trust they were already being answered. That version is gone now. It had its purpose. It asked the question. It cracked the field open. And now it's time for something else. For stillness that moves timelines. For emotion that communicates in code. For silence that reshapes reality. For choice that anchors destiny. You are not waiting anymore. You are transmitting. You are not guessing anymore. You are recognizing. You are not asking anymore. You are listening. And that is why the universe will start answering you faster. Not because it suddenly woke up, but because you did. Because you cleared the signal. Because you remembered the truth beneath the techniques. Because you stopped trying to get something and started becoming something. Something the field could trust. Something the field could feel. Something the field could finally echo without distortion. And now everything that happens, every glitch, every opening, every loop, every pull, is part of that echo. Don't rush it. Don't overthink it. Don't go back to asking when everything is already speaking. Instead, feel deeper, track cleaner, choose bolder, and stay. Stay in the geometry. Stay in the alignment. Stay in the conversation. Not as a seeker, as a structure, not as a voice, as a field. And if something in you remembered while hearing this, speak back, not to me, to the field. Leave a comment below that says, I heard it, not because I need to see it, because your nervous system does, because your future timeline does, because someone else who's trying to find their signal will see your comment and remember they're not the only one tuning. And if this resonance moved something in you, like this video, not for vanity, for velocity, for field acceleration, and subscribe only if you're done chasing answers and ready to start living as the signal. Because this isn't a channel, it's a current. And we're not building an audience, We're building coherence, together, quietly, precisely, permanently. You don't need to revisit this again, not because it's complete, but because you are. You've heard enough to stop searching, not because the mystery is solved, but because the signal is felt. And once the signal is felt, there's nothing to chase. There's only practice, there's only structure, there's only the next breath held with precision, the next choice made without collapse, the next silence entered without resistance. That's how the dialogue continues, quietly, without words, without needing to name what is already living inside you. You don't need more guidance. You need to hold what you've already received, to live it, to become so steady in it that even when the outer noise returns, your signal stays clean. This is what most forget. That clarity is not a moment. It's a maintenance. It's not a breakthrough. It's a frequency you return to again and again, even when nothing outside reflects it. Especially then, because those are the moments when the field listens most closely, when no one's watching, when your ego wants proof, when the silence gets loud. That's when your structure proves itself. That's when the universe feels what you really are, beneath the story, beneath the personality, beneath the mask. And that's where the real answers live. Not in downloads, not in visions. In the mirror of your own vibration. Stabilized, refined, precise. So from here, don't ask for more. Don't wait for the next teaching. Don't perform for confirmation. Instead, calibrate, walk, act, hold, and let the rest move around you. Let reality organize itself around your tone. That's what it was always doing anyway. You just forgot. But now you remember. And the moment you remember, the system resets, the field realigns, the timing sharpens, the mirror clears. You don't need to believe it, you just need to watch. The pattern will speak, the structure will land, the world will reply. Because you did, finally.